After not 2 but 3 episodes, kicked off premiere day for The Lord of the Rings. The Rings of Power Season 2, all eyes were on Episode 4 to develop and deliver as the season finished its first half. What viewers received was a meandering approach to multiple journeys, with the series' usual trend of splitting episodes into 3 narrative arcs, altered to include a 4th. The episode also featured plenty of fan service and Easter eggs, as is customary with any franchise series nowadays, with some viewers taking to social media to admit their frustration with the direction of this second outing. Nevertheless, it has to be admitted that such commitment to setup now likely points to an explosive payoff down the line, with Episode 5 hopefully kicking the season up a notch. The latest episode of the fantasy epic begins in Khazad-dûm, where the influence and power of the new rings rear their head. King Durin is opening up the Mountain Kingdom to the light, using the power of his ring to be able to tell his men where to dig. However, not everyone is so keen about his approach. As Disa tells Prince Durin, she's worried about the fact that its power may be too tempting for the leader to contain. And as we see a little while later, it already is causing issues, as the king tells the other dwarven lords they must pay a bounty to be able to use the rings. Later in the episode, Disa buys a tuning crystal, but ends up losing it in the tunnels of the mine. As she goes through the darkness, she sings out to find it, but something terrifying replies in the depths of the mountain. This rings warning bells for Disa and Prince Durin, as the king vows to ignore his restrictions and keep digging deeper into Khazad-dûm to find more gold. What could go wrong? Meanwhile, in a region, Sauron in Annatar form is still manipulating Celebrimbor and the work at the Elven Forge. Celebrimbor has a surprise for them too, the doors of Durin, which are covered with Ithilden. Annatar is trying to convince Celebrimbor to make rings for men, as they are suffering the most in Middle-earth. It is a game you play, is it not? Sowing seeds in others' minds? He asks Annatar at one point, almost blowing the whole disguise wide open. Undeterred, Celebrimbor refuses, getting Annatar to take on the task on his own, after he vows to find men who are pure of heart. I shall make the 9 myself, he says, but it proves to be harder than he imagined. Redania gets the rough side of this after she tries on one of the rings they've been working on, which takes her into the unseen world. It was tall, and its skin was made of flames. She warns of a beast she saw hunting them. Annatar uses it as an opportunity to try and persuade Celebrimbor to help with the making of the rings, as well as leaning on Redania to persuade him too, with a cheeky compliment that she looks like Galadriel. Calm down, Haladriel shippers. This is when the storylines between the dwarves and the elves collide, as Durin shares his worries about how his father has been changed by the rings. Celebrimbor says it's impossible that they'd been corrupted, even by the ringmakers. He confronts Annatar about this, asking if he's been influencing the rings, who suggests that his deceit of Gil-galad is what tainted them. The conclusion plays right into his favor though, as Celebrimbor decides they must start again with the next rings, bringing purity into the 9. Numenor is not immune from political machinations, either, as tension grows among the men. Now Pharazôn has taken the throne, he's made the decision to cement his reign with an iron fist. Speaking to his son Kemen, he instructs him to squash all potential traitors. Ominously, he tells him too that his mother had a prophecy that he would come to Elends. If he does his dirty work, Pharazôn will clarify how. Elsewhere, Elendil tries to counsel Miriel to make a stand, as the Seaguard will protect her. However, she's now so preoccupied with the fate of Numenor, and that it may have changed, so she wants to keep the status quo. This leaves Elendil in a challenging position, especially as his daughter Irian has declared herself Team Pharazôn about whether to show loyalty. Ultimately, he decides against it, handing in his captain's robes to Kemen, just as his men also do. It's a decision that has bloody consequences in the final act, as while praying in the temple for the souls that have been lost, Kemen's men march in and overthrow him and Valendil. Kemen destroys a priceless artifact, as Valendil challenges him, aiming his sword at his neck, only not killing him on Elendil's orders. Kemen is not as noble, stabbing Valendil in the back, murdering him in the most cowardly way. We see very little of the elves outside of the Forge this week, aside from a small update as Gil-galad plots where to send his efforts, a region or towards Hadar. He decides the latter, as we get a tiny glimpse of just how the orc's father is faring with his new prisoner Galadriel. I brought you here not as a prisoner, but as a potential ally, he tells her. For we share a common enemy. Watch out, Sauron.